Hi everyone, this is Zach with CE Pro. Today I'm joined by Jason Feus, the National Connected Lighting Sales Manager for Liteline USA. Jason, thanks for hanging out.
Hi, Zach. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Of course, yeah. You want to take a second just to tell the folks about yourself and Liteline?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Jason Feus again, and I've been in the business, in the custom integration business for 18 years. I was really early adopter launching lighting into the custom integration space, was a very early adopter with lines like DMF, Zanaboni, Liteline, early on in our career. I'm talking in 2009, 2010 to 2011, when we were really pioneering lighting into the space. Uh, Went to work at Liteline 3 years ago, was brought on with Liteline to launch them properly in the custom innovation integrated channel. And so that's what we've been working on, is making sure that Liteline is launched properly in the custom innovation channel.
Can you describe why lighting is such an important part of designing a home?
Yeah, so the home is, the home is so emotionally attached, right? Lighting plays a key role in making the home look beautifully all the time. So how do we maintain the home's beauty? And we can do it with stones and fits and finishes, but really lighting is what ties it all together. So when a home is properly lit, it'll always present beautifully. Right. And also it can speak to the emotion of the homeowners as well. So through some dynamic fixtures or even just good quality white light, we can almost tell the mood of the home or the client through proper lit homes.
Mm. So Liteline, how does your approach differ from others in the industry? And I know your kind of mantra is sell first, design second. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so when I started in the industry, lighting controls were really a budding, an evolving thing. And the way that we came up with being successful selling lighting controls was we actually came up with a per zone cost, right? So we gave the integrator a number that he could trial close, or as we like to call it, show one pair of shoes on a job site, right? So you take 40 zones, you have a $479 per zone. Mr. Client, we're having a $22,000 conversation. Is that in line with what you thought? Right. And it was a way to just qualify the client or trial close without having to do a ton of work. When automated or motorized lighting shades were launched in the space, it was a very similar conversation, right? It was $1,500 per window. We knew a shade could be $800 to $3,800. But again, it was a trial close. That $1,500 mark was so detrimental because it qualified the account, right? It made sure that we weren't designing a whole home when really it wasn't in the budget or the client could only afford the first level of the house. If that makes sense. Automated, and as we step into lighting fixtures, it's the same thing. I get calls all the time from integrators who are like, "Hey, I think I've got a house. I need a number, right? Can you design this so I can sell it?" And what if we had a solution that we could do the exact same thing? What if we had a way to give you some numbers based nothing more than square footage, so you could trial close the client? We know the number is going to change with their engagement, but we give you a way that you can qualify the client based on nothing more than under roof square footage without having to do the heavy lifting. Once we have yes, we can help design, or more importantly, teach the integrator how to do the design based on general accent and task within the home.
Great segue into my next question. What do you see integrators just doing wrong when designing a lighting plan?
That's interesting. I don't know if it's wrong or just not knowing, right? So wrong would mean they would have to know they're doing something. It may not be wrong. It just may be, today a lot of the manufacturers who've gotten into the space are after the quick lift of doing a layout for the integrator. And I think that's great as a quick lift, but the longevity of our channel is about teaching the integrator how to do it right, right? Working with lighting designers, but also teaching the integrator how to be able to go in and know how many fixtures belong in the space, the same way they do it with speakers. And so being able to tie that together is really important because it helps us educate the dealer, and all boats rise with the tide. So as we teach the dealer and they're more comfortable laying out digital fixtures with their digital control system, they're going to do more jobs and tying more fixtures on more controls and projects.
Okay, so let's put some of this into practice. And let's talk about, I think, what I think is a key part of the home is the kitchen. Is the kitchen, a good place to start, designing, a lighting plan, and where do you go from there?
So yes and no, depending on if they've designed a home before or not, or if they're doing a layout or a takeoff, right? If it's already been designed and we're taking off, but kitchens are actually really one of the hardest spaces because you have so many reflected surfaces in a kitchen, right? It's like walking into a wide open space where you've got tons of marble and stone and granite and counters,
Mm,
your wood cabinets. Maybe
I see.
it's not, it's you've just got a lot of different materials in the kitchen. And the kitchen normally will have anywhere from 3 to 5 to 7 different layers of light.
Mm,
Right. That can be daunting if you've never done that before, right? If you've never laid out general lighting, if you've never done toe kick, under cabinet, over cabinet, cabinet lighting, pendants, right? So a lot of times everybody wants to go to the kitchen because it's the heart of the home. But sometimes you need to get engagement, right? Sometimes you take some of the other rooms and you start there and we get to yes, right? We get the integrator and the client and the designer thinking about layers of light in other rooms. And it's our stance is 2 layers of light in every room. Liteline, we understand that there's going to be areas of the home that have 3, 5, 7 or more layers of light.
mm.
But our goal early on is to get the integrator to think about just having 2 layers of light in every room. And it could be general and accent, it could be general and task, it could be accent and task, or task and accent. It's just about getting them to think about the space differently and make sure we're layering light for the proper outcome in the space.
So how do those layers of light and those lighting disciplines, like, general, task, accent, decorative, work together to elevate, both function and design? And I guess we'll start with the kitchen and then talk about different rooms from there.
Sure. So, it's interesting because I get that question a lot. And in the kitchen, right, when we talk about general lighting, if we look at the definition of general lighting, there's a couple words that really pop out, and it's uniformly lit. And this is so important because a lot of people, back to your previous conversation about maybe what's not done right, is in general lighting, we'll see projects where fixtures are too far apart, right? And one of the things that we like to educate our dealers on is understanding you take the ceiling height, you divide by 2, and that gives you a great estimate on how far apart your fixtures should be for evenly lit spaces with general lighting, right? So everybody has had a project where their fixtures are too far apart or too close even, right? And this is a great way that the integrator can earn the business by being able to articulate certain messages while on the job site about putting fixtures in spaces. So then as we move away from general into task, and this is where kitchens can be a real challenge because if we're looking at under counter light, what are we really trying to do? Are we trying to highlight the backsplash or deliver ample light for task? And the answer is always both, right? Yet if we focus on one, we may take away from the other. And a lot of times that backsplash may have cost more than the actual countertops.
Mm,
So we want to evenly light the backsplash. But again, because it's such a highly reflected surface, we want to make sure that we have our first point of reflection to give the proper quality of task light to perform an action, right? Because when we're doing task lighting, we're performing an action. So we have to think about how do we use task to perform that action. And then our accent is how do we take a utility device or a backsplash and make it elegant through lighting
mm.
when the natural light isn't there.
So I know, the kitchen is, probably a very busy area, and then that's probably where a lot of lighting investment is poured into in a lot of these projects. But as we move throughout the home, how else can we use lighting to accent, different features in different spaces. I know you guys have an interesting take when it comes to hallways.
We do. And so if the kitchen is the heart of the home, the hallway is the artery, right? And
Mm,
I'm gonna speak generally here for a minute. It's probably might get me in a little trouble, but to a Jeep, to a man, a hallway is to get from A to B, right? To Mr. Client, the hallway is to get from one room to the other, and we're going to tie it together for that transition. But to Mrs. Client, the hallway is a gallery. And what I mean by that, it doesn't matter the 0.5%, the 1%, any home that I've ever walked in, I've almost always seen the collage of family pictures in the hallway, and some of the highest art adorns the walls.
mm,
Yet it gets one layer of light or it gets some spotlights, right? It's usually an area that is neglected, or it's the first area that the builder or the community goes to if we need to value engineer a space, right? We take it out of the hallways. And this is such the artery, it's the heaviest traveled space. It even sees more traffic than that 10 foot in front of the refrigerator in the kitchen. Why would we ever neglect lighting in those spaces?
right.
So there's three different principles, right? There's three different ways to light hallways properly. And one of the things that we've done is we've taken an approach of, when we're moving commercially, when we move people through exhibits, for instance, we do something called wayfinding guides. Residentially, we could call it a wayfinding guide, but we're calling it point source lighting. And people are drawn to a spotlight mounted below 36 inches every 5 feet. And when we get to that light, we go to the next one. So lighting the arteries of the home elegantly is really, about what's right for the project. And maybe it isn't linear, right? But it's just about having at least a second layer of light, knee high or lower, to draw the occupant through the space and make it beautiful. Make it a point of feature, right? Make somebody want to see the gallery. They don't just see, oh yeah, that's the hallway, right? It becomes a breathing part, a part of the home that it should be called the gallery.
So what kind of Lightline products would you use in a hallway, for example?
So within Lightline, so if we step out of our general, we go to our accent categories, right? We have a product called Fossil, which is a plaster fixture that gets drywalled into the wall.
Oh,
That's a great solution, right? Because the light fixture disappears and we
mm,
seamlessly just have a point source of light. We have some wall grazing fixtures as well, or if we just want to have a little ponch of light grazing down on the baseboard or down on the wood floors, we can do that. Or we even take some of our traditional step light products that cast an asymmetrical beam, and we can use those in that space as well to just give that impression, that highlight of space. Or we also have a ton of linear solutions also where we can go in and do that linear approach if that's what the client likes, if it's more of a modern home.
great. Let's talk about other spaces in the home. So you're moving from the kitchen, through the hallway, and maybe you hit a set of stairs. Are we, just forgetting to light stairs properly with the right kind of features?
I don't know if it's we're forgetting to light them properly. I think there's just a lot of different ways to do steps, right? And what's right for the client, and are we as a custom integrator asking the right questions, right? Every homeowner has an idea in their head, and this is where the lighting designer and the interior designer do a great job asking questions to draw images out of the client's head, right? And are we asking the right questions? Is it a curved spiral staircase where maybe linear is the right approach,
Mm,
right? But what I see is we immediately go to the steps, and the custom integration space is doing an incredible job lighting steps. But we get to the top of the steps and we look down the hallway and it's dark and gloomy. And maybe even, you see the Grady twins from The Shining at the other end, right?
yeah,
That may not be our approach that we're trying to do.
sure.
So
Right.
whatever the approach was in the hallway, tying these two areas together is really important. And that becomes that same type of light where if we carried point source through the hallway or the gallery, we should continue that down the steps.
Mm,
right? If it was a linear approach, maybe we do want to run the linear. But if we're doing linear, let's look at how to do linear so it just isn't running LED ladders, right? It's not just a piece of LED underneath the tread. Nothing wrong with it, but the custom integrator is a solutions-based salesperson, and we want to, think about other ways, other arrows in the quiver to light the utilitarian device's steps and make it an architectural feature.
right. Can you talk about some, creative applications you've seen using Liteline products in, on a staircase or any other kind of, unique areas of the home that sometimes get overlooked when it comes to lighting?
Yes, and this is that fossil product that we talked about earlier. We can we can carry that through these spaces, right? We can put it in the powder room on the first floor. We can put it in guest bathrooms as well. It's just another little egress lighting within the space. We can carry it down the steps and finish that look so it ties the spaces together. And that's done with those same accent products that we've just talked about. All right, so how do we do that? It's fossil, it's grazers, it's tape, right? It, it isn't about one product. It's about arrows in the quiver for the integrator to have multiple solutions because they're a solutions-based salesperson.
Hmm. What advice would you give to an integrator working with a client, that are, just kind of just starting to develop their lighting plan? Um, yeah, what's your some of your best piece of advice to integrators that are just going down that road?
Some of the best pieces of advice here is really trying to think about what's right for the home, right? And I know that's easy to say, but giving the integrator or reminding the integrator to do what they already do with sound with fixtures.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is custom integrators are great. They can walk into a space, they can analyze the space, they can calculate the space, and they can think about placement with sound, with speakers. And they do that second nature. They don't even hesitate. And they'll walk around and they'll whistle and they'll clap their hands and they know exactly how many speakers go in that space. Right? And when we get to lighting, some of them may just flatline and they don't think about that.
Hmm.
So our approach is to educate them on, okay, let's stop, let's analyze what's the room going to be used for. Let's analyze it. Now let's calculate our length by width. Let's figure out our volume within the space. And finally, let's talk about placement. Where do the lights go within the space based on the other two criteria for that space, right? So they're already doing it. We just need to remind them when they first started, they had these questions. Today, it's second nature. That's why I feel lighting is going to be such a big part of the integrator's portfolio moving forward once they understand this.
Absolutely. So how do you guys support integrators that are, doing this work and maybe they aren't, super proficient in lighting quite yet?
Yeah, so we actually, part of what we're doing that makes us different is we are actually hosting trainings and we are teaching the integrator how to do a takeoff, how to do a layout, how to even, lighting design is a little different, right? And I say that because, think about as a custom integrator building an AV rack off-site, right? You really can't get 100%, right? I mean, in the old days it was 80, maybe it's a little better than that today, but you can only get so far, right? When we're doing a lighting design, we need to know fits, finish, wallpaper, paints, drapes, couch material, right? We need to know so much ahead of time that maybe the integrator doesn't have answers to yet. So as we look at doing lighting layouts, one of the things that we want to do is educate the custom integrator on, what's the right light to use in that space. Are the ceilings over 12 feet? Should we use what type of reflector should we use? How many lights are needed, right? How are we taking that ceiling height, dividing by 2, and that's our maximum distance between fixtures? Are we talking about the volume of the space? And we've broken this down in a way that an integrator with a Sharpie could do the math on a 2x4 on the job site,
Mm,
able to articulate the message to the client on why they should be supplying fixtures. And that's the
Sure.
huge difference, right? I get a lot of that. I don't want to upset, Mr. Electrician who understood, but you
Yeah.
didn't mind doing that when you took the lighting control system from him, right?
Right.
You didn't mind doing that when you took the all the voltage regulation equipment from him, right? Mr. Electrician is happy to work with you and have somebody own it based on somebody who's put the time in to do that design.
Hmm. Very good, Jason. Thanks very much. This is super valuable stuff. I think a lot of integrators still struggle with lighting. It's new for a lot of them, and they're just kind of getting their feet wet with it. So I think information like this and just how you broke it down would be super valuable for any integrator to hear. All right, Jason, thanks for coming on and telling us about how integrators should think a little bit differently about lighting.
Thanks, Zach, for having us. Really appreciate the opportunity. Look forward to hearing from you.